Hi everyone, Jax West here. No relation to the Avery family. I'm just a supporter who runs Stephen Avery Project. So I'm coming live because I know yesterday Brendan Dassey's lawyers announced on National Wrongful Conviction Day that they were going for clemency, also known as a pardon, for Brendan Dassey, as that's pretty much where Brendan's case is left with. It is really sad, and it's due to his wrongful confession. And they are advising people to sign the petition and to write letters to the new governor of Wisconsin, Governor Evers, to ask for Brendan Dassey's release. The sad thing on that is when you get pardoned, you then can't go after the state for your wrongful conviction. But there will be other avenues for Brendan to I know it all comes down to money, but to make money off of his story, because upon release, Brendan can't just get a regular job like anybody else. His life is going to always be in danger from crazy fans or from people who think he's guilty. So he can't just go out into the world and be a normal citizen. And you can also see that he doesn't have the mentality of, sorry, there go my dogs. Hey, stop. He's got a lower IQ. So, and then he has been locked away since he's 16, 17 years old. So he hasn't lived free as an adult. So he is still very childlike. So his wrongful conviction is why he's at the end of his options unless it is proven who the real killer is. So it's a new governor. The last governor of Wisconsin said had said prior to his election that he would never pardon anybody because he believed in the judicial system. And so if you were found guilty, you're guilty. He wasn't going to let anyone out. So everyone knows that Brendan is innocent. So if he's pardoned, that isn't saying he's guilty. So this is what Brendan has left to get free. So I do encourage people to write to the governor. If you tweet at the governor. Now, but the thing to remember in all of this is also political. And politicians care about money and voters. Who's going to vote for them? So they're not typically going to care about somebody who doesn't live in Wisconsin and can't be a vote for them. So all of us living everywhere else, they may not care. But it doesn't hurt to try, right? It takes seconds to click on a petition or to send a message electronically to Governor Evers. And I do encourage you as well to send him a postcard. Send him something in the mail. The more mail he gets, it's, just makes it that much stronger. So snail mail the governor of Wisconsin as well. Brendan is innocent. There's no way you can watch that his entire interrogation and know that he said those things by choice. And Kratz can manipulate and lie all he wants, trying to claim that even if the one interrogation was thrown out means they have all these others are also manipulating Brendan. Period, point blank. And the major one that has been ruled at one time to be a coerced confession is he was completely led to say all those things. Brendan, what happened to her head? Punched her? Cut her hair? Cut her throat? They wanted Brendan to say she was shot, because that's when they came up with this whole magic bullet in the garage thing. And so now they had to have something happen in the garage so they can say that's where Teresa was shot. So they were trying to lead Brendan to that, but Brendan is slow and isn't understanding what they're trying to get him to say. So that's where you get the punched her, cut her hair, slit her throat. And then he goes, okay, I'm just going to come out and say this. Who shot her in the head? And he immediately says Stephen. So that blows the case, the whole shooting thing right there. Brendan never said she was shot. The crooked investigator did. And of course, Brendan is going to then say Stephen when because he didn't do it and he doesn't want them to think he did it, so he'll say Stephen. So, but Kathleen Zellner has proven there's so much wrong with that bullet. Kratz can again lie all he wants on there about that bullet, but we know that the bullets there were fired by Raleigh Johnson, who actually owns that garage and owns the trailer that Stephen and Jody lived in, and the gun that was in there above Stephen's bed. And Raleigh testified that he would be on the property and he would shoot at animals, and there was a hole that was near the garage, and the animal would come out of that hole and they would shoot at him. So there is, even if they can prove that that casing came from the exact gun that was in Stephen's house, you can't prove Stephen fired it. There's nothing on that. It's Raleigh Johnson's Glenfield Marlin rifle. So, red paint on it, which the garage is painted red. There's a waxy substance on there with Teresa's DNA. Why was chapstick taken from Teresa's home and brought to Stephen's? There is too much out there. Too much reasonable doubt. I don't want to hear that, a jury found them both guilty. Juries don't have all the facts. So much gets cut. And then in the case of Stephen's jury, we know there were people that were planted in there that were also affiliated with Manitowoc Sheriff's Department. How those people are able to get on that jury is beyond me. So, juries ruling on something doesn't mean anything. They're not given all the facts. And back then, they didn't even have all the facts. Kathleen Zellner has uncovered so much more, as well as people like Carol Ann Fitzgerald, who is the one that found out, or didn't find out. She sent the information to Kathleen about how the bones that Kratz had said in court, don't even know if they're human. Don't pay attention to these quarry bones. These aren't the bones you're looking for. Why then in 2011 would they deliver those bones back to the Hallback family? Kratz recently said it was because, they just want to, put things to rest for the Hallbacks. How is that putting anything to rest for the Hallback family if that's not Teresa? Why are you giving them then random bones? So that's a nice try at an explanation, but it doesn't work. Brendan was manipulated from the very start, as was everybody in that Avery family, and is what crooked cops do. That it is legal for cops to lie, to say that we've got this already, so you might as well say it. That's legal. Kratz and Gilters like to say stuff about changing stories. When was the fire? When was somebody at the fire? Blah, 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 blah. It's because they didn't remember. Did I have a fire that night? I can't remember for sure. No big deal. But then they're the ones that kept pushing, that wanted to make this fire bigger than it was. Was it this big, or was it this big, or was it this big? My theory, and I'm not taking credit for this, just saying this is what I believe. Brendan is Stephen's alibi. So, law enforcement was trying to manipulate him into saying he knew Stephen did it. They weren't trying to get Brendan intertwined in it. All they wanted was Stephen. And they tried to manipulate all the Dassey boys. But they don't have the IQ that Brendan does. So, Brendan, not understanding the leading questions they were giving him, ends up implicating himself. And now they have to go with it. So, Kratz said something about how Brendan was lying. He said something about seeing Teresa when they got off the bus and then didn't see her. Brendan said from the get-go he didn't see her. And then the crooked law enforcement, trying to lead him to say things, then would say, well, everybody else on the bus saw her, and the driver saw her, and Blaine saw her. So then Brendan changes to what they're saying. And yes, Brendan is the youngest Dassey boy, Jessica. When you're going to keep questioning somebody a million times, and you're changing the story to them, his story changes. He wants to please them, and he wants to get out. When you see the one where they have him in the little room, that's part of the read technique. That they put you in this little room. You don't get to look at the door. You're very close to your accusers. They're reaching out and touching his knee. They're saying over and over, be honest, be honest. The one guy says, I'm not a police officer. I'm a dad right now. Trying to be all comforting for Brendan. That whole confession is a bunch of crap. And anybody who watches it in its entirety, and you can go to StephenAveryCase.org, and you can go into where a bunch of the interrogations are and listen for yourself. But all they have on Brendan is that confession. There is nothing else. Oh, they have jeans that had bleach on it? So what? What does that mean? That doesn't mean anything. So it's really sad that Brendan's whole life was taken from him. And now his lawyers are attempting to get him a pardon since there is a new governor and Brendan is at the end. And I have been sent up from a bunch of different people today how guilters and crats are out there making videos and such and telling people now to contact the governor and tell him not to give Brendan clemency. And I just find that so unbelievably sad. Because Brendan is so sweet. He cannot hurt a fly. I'm not kidding. I used to talk with Brendan on the phone. And he's just a sweet and caring kid. And I've told this story before, but I don't know if I've ever done it on Stephen Avery Project. I probably have only done it in like MAM Gossip. I went with somebody once who was visiting Brendan. And I, at that time, was not on his list. I was going to be put on his visitors list soon thereafter. But I went with her for the drive. And so when I had talked to Brendan on the phone, I had said I was going with her. We chatted about that or whatever. And so I just sat in the car and was on my phone and napped while she was in the visit. And then when she came out with a open bag of Fritos that she said that Brendan sent out with her because of me sitting there for those 2 hours. He knew I'd be hungry and wanted to give me something. That's Brendan. He's a sweet, caring kid. A lot of people in Wisconsin hunt. It's not for Brendan. He's not killing animals. He's a lover of animals. Do you honestly think that kid could rape a woman with his uncle watching? It's not possible. It's just not possible. I really hope that Governor Evers will look at this seriously. I don't want him to hear from me, the lawyers, the guilters. Look at the stuff for yourself. Look at that interrogation. Look at what they did to Brendan. I don't know how anybody can watch that and think that that kid can honestly confess to those things. That you don't see who shot her in the head. That's it, right there. Who shot her in the head? Because they needed that bullet to be in their theory. And so they needed Brendan to put it there. They needed Brendan to say it of his own will, but he didn't understand what they were saying. So that's where you get punched her, cut her hair, cut her throat. And please stop with the stories of Stephen cleaned that trailer, and that's why you don't see any evidence that Teresa had been in that trailer. No way. No way if you go by what Brendan said, that her hair was cut, throat slit, 2 men had sex with her, and you find nothing of Teresa or Brendan in that trailer. Nowhere. Exactly, Maz. That's the other thing. When you watch the interrogation, and as soon as Brendan's mom is let into the room, he's immediately saying they got to my head. He's recanting immediately. And another thing that Kratz has addressed is that he offered a plea deal to Brendan that then he would only get 15 years. and he should have taken it. Well, no. Back then, you're still just going, I didn't do this, and I'm not going to say I'm guilty of something I didn't do. And he was advised by family members, if you did it, take the plea. If you didn't, fight. So, and then you have the whole Len Kaczynski debacle, where you have him and Michael Kelly also getting Brendan to say and draw things that didn't happen. How offensive is it that the first thing Michael Kelly is doing is, you need to check one of these boxes. You're sorry for what you did, or you're not sorry for what you did. And he's supposed to be helping Brendan. And it's automatically you're guilty. It's just unreal to me. I wasn't planning on doing a live today, but I've been sent by multiple people now stuff that, like, Kratz, because Kratz is always trying to get his 15 minutes. And so Kratz has some video, and I won't watch the video. And he claimed that so his stupid book that he wrote a couple years ago and failed tremendously. He and his daughter's sister wife are, sorry, I'm on Stephen Avery Project. I'm supposed to be nice and not use stupid nicknames. They're promoting on Twitter his book, trying to get people to buy this book because he's claiming he's got 2 new chapters where he talks about Brendan should be free. So it's tricking people into thinking that he's going to be saying something positive about Brendan, so get this book for him to be saying he now thinks Brendan should be free. Well, in MAM Gossip, we've got 2 lives in there where I read Kratz's book. So we read the book together. And so all he's saying in there is how he had offered him the deal, and if he had taken the deal, he would only have been sentenced to 15 years. And that's how he would be out. So please don't bother to buy that piece of Kratz. We read it in MAM Gossip, so you don't have to. So if you have any questions about Kratz's book, you can fire away in MAM Gossip, where we now have read it. But yeah, the live today is because Brendan needs to be free, and this is what's left for him. Unless the people who know that Scott and Bobby are truly the killers come forward and tell what they know. Or the people that helped plant the RAV4 or any other evidence were to come forward. I don't know how the people who know things sleep at night. I get it, they're afraid of Manitowoc Sheriff's Department because of all the shady stuff that's happened. Look at things that have happened to people that have come forward. Look at what happens to Stephen. I mean, so that's a big one. Look what happened to Stephen. So it's just all so sad. And I really support the governor pardoning Brendan Dassey. Let the kid get his life back. He'll just go home and play video games, go to wrestling matches. So it's just Brendan is what really hooked me when I watched Making a Murderer for the first time. As a mother, it upset me. If that had happened to my son, I would be in prison. And when I talked with Brendan's lawyer at one point about there not being laws to protect juveniles in interrogations and how there should be, something that she brought up, because I had always said, a parent should be present. But Laura is absolutely right. It should be an attorney. Because if I was in the room when that stuff is happening to my son, I don't know the laws, and I'm just gonna go nuts in protecting my child, and I will be extremely upset and kind of crazy. So it is best for a lawyer that knows the law to be in there. But then you have the problem of, can you afford one, or one will be appointed for you? And then you get one appointed for you, and it's Len Kaczynski, who is working for the state. His pay comes from the state, and then is helping the state. So as Steven says, poor people lose all the time. Unless you can get a lawyer, you're not going to get a good defense. And that's something I could bring up, that if I know we get people who are on Stephen Avery Project who have their own cases or family cases, there is an organization called WMP, stands for Words Matter Publishing, Justice Review. And so they're putting together, they have a team of experts, so a lawyer and ballistics and lie detector and police officers, Secret Service. They have this team that they're helping on a case currently, and then they're trying to raise funds and such, so they'll be able to help other cases for people who don't have the money to have their own experts and really look at their case. I mean, because look at what Stephen and Brendan had the first time around. And now they're lucky that Stephen has Kathleen Zellner that he doesn't have to pay for, and Brendan has Laura Nyrider that he doesn't have to pay for. So, but you don't always get that. So yes, I see people talking about Kathleen is scheduled to file for Stephen on October 14th. So let me pull up my calendar here. So it's not this coming Monday, but the next Monday, which, is Columbus Day. Ooh. So if it's Columbus Day, the courthouse will be closed on the 14th, correct? So then maybe we would get it on the 18th. I don't know. We'll have to pay attention to that. But when Kathleen's filing comes out, as soon as we get it, we'll do a Facebook Live where we read it, and we'll post it for y'all so we can talk about that filing. And then if anything happens in Brendan's case, we bring you everything as soon as we can get it. And we try to keep Stephen Avery Project just on the case. Yeah, I know, the voice of reason. Not everyone honors Columbus Day, and they shouldn't. It should be Indigenous People Day. Nobody should honor Christopher Columbus. But I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole right now. But so we bring you the news as soon as we can. Oh, Voice of Reason is saying people have been fooled by that before and been late. Columbus Day is not always a court holiday. Interesting. Good to know. I didn't know that. So on here, Stephen Avery Project is where we give you the facts and stuff as soon as we get it. Then we have the closed group called MAM Gossip, where we dig into the case a little more, and then we talk about other cases there as well. And yeah, I understand what you're saying, Reason. So how long have they got to go for Brendan, the courts? I don't think there's a time limit, Amanda, on the clemency thing. I know in another case that I advocate for, Melissa Kaluzinski, that corrupt cops in that as well. And what happened with her is when that county got a new coroner and he then looked at the x-rays and the evidence on the victim, he then determined that this was not a murder and it was the cause of death was undetermined. And because of that, because the guy went against what crooked law enforcement did, they then went after him for political stuff. I won't bore you with all of that. And so due to that, he can't be coroner because he was prosecuted and found guilty of this technicality thing. And so something like 4 months ago now, I can't remember how long ago it was, I attended his clemency hearing in Chicago. So that was like I said, like 4 months ago, or could have been even more, that I went to his clemency hearing. And we have a new governor here in Illinois too, who is a good governor as opposed to the one that we had before, when the guy was, when they went after him. And we haven't heard anything on the clemency yet. So it's been 4 months or so, like I said. I don't know how it all works. But the clemency hearing was also really short. You were only given, it was like 10 minutes or whatever. That's it. You know, and so then it had people that were representing different counties in the state, but it wasn't all the counties. So it's went to them, and then they either tell the governor that they're for it or against it. So I don't know if there's a time limit. I don't think there is. But all right, I'm going to get off of here. But Maz is saying, what is clemency ring? It's a pardon. So it means that Brendan would be free, but he would be a convicted criminal. So he can't sue for wrongful conviction. And so, like, he was charged with rape, so he'll be a sex offender for the rest of his life. You know, would have to register as a sex offender and go through, you know, all of that. I haven't seen anything about the confession. What's going on with that? Oh, the stupid guy that confessed to that documentarian you're talking about. That's just a jailhouse snitch. That's a guy who was in prison with Stephen back in 2010. And then once Making a Murderer came out in 2015, you know, because Making a Murderer came out in December of 2015. So in 2016, after it was this big hit and all this attention, The guy claimed that while him and Stephen were in basketball together, Stephen had told him all about killing Teresa. And now that this $100,000 reward came out, now he's claiming he's the one that killed Teresa with some cockamamie story of he had gone to Avery Salvage to look for a part for his car and accidentally hit her with his car. When she fell, she hit her head, and she was dead. And so, and then he just talks about the stuff of going in his trailer, going in his garage, all this stuff. It's just not possible. It's a stupid thing. Anything happening from the tips sent to me. I put that person in contact with Kathleen Zellner, and the person told me that Kathleen is taking it seriously. And that's all I know on that. Matt says, so when honestly do you think the boys be free? I never think in those terms because the system is so bad, and they should never be in there. So, and I'm a pessimist, so I don't want to sit here and go, they're going to be in there for the rest of their lives. I'd like them to be free right now. Walk out the door right this second. I don't know. I don't think of that because I don't trust the system to work. It just always fails. And they really have it out for Stephen. So, I want both of those men to be free, that they can ride off into the sunset and live comfortably how they want. And I hope when they're free that people will respect their privacy and not swarm around them. Give them some peace. Give them time to reacquaint themselves with their families and being out in the world. And yeah, president can't do anything because they're state cases, not federal. So only the governor can. And Greta says, we really need some laws changed. Yep. So, but I'll put my political hat on. That's why you need to vote. And that's why you need to vote all the way down your ballot. Everything matters. So you need to be looking at who's running for your attorney general, who's running for judge, who's running for coroner. Don't just look at the biggies, president and U.S. senator and Congress. Look at everything. Look who, if you have somebody that's running for sheriff, look at that. Look at who's, controlling the prisons. So, do your homework and vote. So, and yes, I will not be speaking on what the tip was, because from when I talked about it in MAM Gossip, people just kind of, people who go into the MAM Gossip, like guilters and such, who just go in there to spy on what I'm going to say, they then started trying to investigate and figuring out who the person was. And then they're coming up with some random person. And I really, you don't want to throw somebody into all of this that has nothing to do with anything. So, so I don't even know if I will, I don't think I will even know what the outcome is of this tip. It was just sent to me, the person messaged Stephen Avery Project, and I sent them Kathleen's way. So, and I really want to impress upon people, if you have a tip, or if you think you found something in the evidence, send it to Kathleen Zellner. You know, she even has, you go to her website, she's got a section just for Stephen. She's got an email that's just for Stephen stuff, and there's a phone number that's just for Stephen stuff. So do not think that something that you saw is that they know about it already. You never know. You have fresh eyes. So it doesn't hurt to send it to Kathleen. So everything should go to Kathleen Zellner. But if somebody sends something my way, or if it's somebody who has something but they really don't want to come forward, yeah, I'll be the middleman then and pass it on. But everything must go through Kathleen. I'm just a supporter like the rest of you all here. And I know that's a question I'm asked a million times when I'm live. You know, who am I? I'm just Jax West. Christina, I'm trying to click to see more of your question, and it's not showing me where you're saying side question. How were Marnie's kids yesterday after the press conference? They did a great job. Really hard to hear. Yeah, I know, because I know this is Stephen Avery project, and I'm not supposed to talk about any other people, but I advocate for several other cases. So one of my cases, Marnie Yang. That's another case from here in Illinois, and we just filed for a new trial for Marnie on Tuesday. And yesterday we had a big press conference that had Marnie's family. And so Marnie's kids, she has twins, a boy and a girl that were 16 at the time, and then her younger son was 12. They did to those kids what they did to Brendan, and manipulated those kids and got them to say things that weren't true. And I found it fascinating that both of them, and I know they're twins, and that was something else to see them together. So like when the daughter Emily was speaking, her brother, her twin Brandon, just knew and was comforting her by, grabbing her shoulder and holding on to her. But both of them, when they both talked about the exonerated five, which I know they referred to as Central Park Five, but Central Park Five want to be called the exonerated five. And so in watching that Netflix documentary, they said, that's exactly what happened to them, on how they were manipulated and threatened by law enforcement. And so the kids are 28 now, I think. And they've lived without their mom ever since, and they both spoke at this press conference yesterday, and it teared me up. The documentary is called When We See Them, or something like that. Somebody please post for Ashley what that's called, when we see them, and it's on Netflix. And that's when you see the one boy in there and what was done to him when they see us. Thank you, Raquel. It's heartbreaking. And that's what happened with the Yang twins yesterday. So, and in the Marnie Yang case, her story has never been told. Her side never ever has been told. So before we hit the press yesterday, everything you found out about Marnie Yang was she's guilty, because she also confessed. Again, wrongful confessions. People just don't get it. And it's something the exonerated five talk about, is they don't have mental disabilities. But they confess to something they didn't do. Marnie Yang is super intelligent. She confessed to something she didn't do. Now, in Marnie's case, she did it because they were going after her 16-year-old son. and were trying to set her son up for this crime. So she confessed to protect her son. As for a documentary on the Marnie Yang case, you can Google it, and there's a Dateline episode, and there's like a Snapped or something like that. Everything that's out there is showing Marnie as guilty. So we now, because we've been working on the case for the last 3 years, nobody could say anything about it. And now we're free. We've put up the whole petition that was filed is available online for people to read. You can see evidence pictures and recordings. Dateline was at the press conference yesterday, and Dateline wants to do a 2-hour episode on Marnie's case that finally we will be hearing from her side, and how she and her sons, or her children, her twins, were manipulated by law enforcement. And that is what happened to Brendan Dassey. It happens all the time. That's why nobody should talk to law enforcement without a lawyer present. No matter the age, not just juveniles, not just low IQ. Had to wait 2 years because it took that long, Maz, to get the evidence. It was really hard to get all the evidence, and still don't have it all. You know, because when you're dealing with a corrupt law enforcement agency, as you can see in Stephen Brendan's case, and like Zellner can't get the RAV4. Why can't Zellner get the RAV4? Why can't you have it? So I don't understand it. How is that a fair trial when your people can't look at the evidence? Yes, there is a book currently that Marnie's kids did that is called My Mom Marnie, and that is available. And we've got some book things set up. Like there's one on the 19th in Chicago, where the kids will talk about their book, and people will be able to get signed books. And I did have the kids sign 3 books yesterday, and so I'm doing a fundraiser for Marnie Yang, because now she, we're hoping to get a new trial, and she needs money to pay for her trial. She doesn't have a pro bono lawyer, and there's no more money. So, so I'm doing a fundraiser with these signed books from the kids. So so it was all 3 of her kids, and they each wrote a little message in the book too. Nobody's gonna stop fighting for Stephen and Brendan. His attorneys they're not only in it because of the law and the case. Especially, Laura Nyrider has a wonderful relationship with Brendan. And Laura Nyrider is a mother herself. So, she's never going to leave Brendan. Ugh. It's just, it's so sad. We need more things out there in the public for people to realize about false confessions, that it does happen, and you don't think you would do it. But Melissa Kaluzinski, another case that I advocate for, she was questioned for hours and said she had nothing to do with it. And they're using that Reed technique, and it's draining you down. And near the end of it, they're just going, yep, we know it was an accident. Just say it was an accident. And so she says it was an accident, and now she's in prison. And Melissa also has a low IQ, but she's not quite as low on the spectrum, shall we say, as Brendan. Um, so you don't think you'll confess, but they're experts at it. Keeping you in there for hours and hours, and the little things they do to you while you're in there. So, false confessions. But in Brendan's case, we see that they say the things first for him to say it. There's video of it. We know it happened. So, all right, I already said before I wanted to get off here. So again, the purpose of this is reach out to Governor Evers, the governor of Wisconsin, and request that he pardon or give clemency, however you want to word it, Brendan Dassey, and tell him that it was a false confession. I really do think people should be sending him a postcard. I think mail is a big deal. We do so many postcards in political stuff to our representatives. So I think that is more effective than going on his website and clicking a thing there. So send him a postcard. Make it something that's noticeable and bright. Don't be vulgar. Because if you're vulgar, you lose credibility. And I'm not talking down to you on it because I am such a vulgar person. So, but keep it classy. And flood his mailbox. So you could just Google Governor Evers, Evers, Wisconsin. And it'll show you the address. But we'll also get it posted here. Oh, yeah. And then Brendan's birthday is on October 19th. So if you're going to be sending something out to Governor Evers, send out to the same day. Send Brendan a happy birthday. And something to Governor Evers. And yes, also sign and share that petition. So, all right. I'm going to click out. If you want to talk more or see more, then you find our group that's called MAM, which we get so many people who request to join MAM Gossip and then say they don't know what MAM is. MAM is making a murderer. But in MAM Gossip, we discuss all the other cases in true crime and things like that. So it's not just Stephen and Brendan there. So if you only care about hearing about Stephen and Brendan stuff, then just stay here on Stephen Avery Project, because we will bring you all the news as it comes. So have a good day, everyone. Do your homework, get your postcards, and get those sent out. Thank you.